Jiwan stood at the big window of New Geneva Station, looking out at Jupiter's swirling clouds. The massive planet spun slowly below her, its red and orange colors dancing in the starlight. Today marked 200 years since the Great Solar Storm almost killed everyone on Earth. She was here to remember that terrible time and the friends who saved them. The station was busy with diplomats from many worlds. Humans in neat blue uniforms walked next to tall, thin aliens with silver skin. Short, furry creatures chatted with beings made of what looked like living crystal. This was normal now. Earth was part of a big galactic community. But it had not always been this way. Jiwan walked to her office and sat at her desk. On the wall hung an old picture of Earth during the storm. The planet looked sick, covered in angry red clouds of radiation. She touched a button, and her computer showed the old records from 2387. Back then, humans had just learned to travel between planets in their own solar system. Mars had small cities. The moon had mining bases. People thought they were doing well. Then their sun went crazy. The solar storm was bigger than anything in recorded history. It destroyed Earth's magnetic field in just 3 days. Without that protection, deadly radiation poured down on the planet. Plants started dying, animals got sick. Humans built underground shelters, but they were not enough. The radiation was too strong. Scientists said Earth had maybe 6 months before all life died. Billions of people would die slow, painful deaths. The colonies on Mars and the Moon could only save a few thousand people. Everyone else was trapped. Then they came. The first Velinary ship appeared near Earth on the 4th day of the crisis. It was beautiful, long and white like a swan, with graceful curves that seemed to flow like water. More ships followed. Soon, 50 Velinary vessels surrounded Earth. The Velinary looked almost human, but taller and thinner. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were large and kind. They had pointed ears and moved with a grace that made them seem like they were dancing. Even when walking, their leader was Elder Velton. He spoke to Earth's leaders in perfect English, though he had never been to Earth before. His voice was soft but strong, like a gentle river that could carve through mountains. "We have watched your world from far away," he said. "We know you are in great danger. We want to help." Many humans were suspicious. Why would strangers help them? What did they want in return? But as the radiation got worse and more people got sick, Earth's leaders had no choice. They accepted the Velinary offer. The aliens worked like magic. Their ships created a huge energy shield around Earth. The deadly radiation bounced off this shield like rain off an umbrella. Then they landed and gave humans medicine that healed the sickness caused by radiation. They brought machines that cleaned the poisoned air and water. For 2 years, the Velinary stayed near Earth. They taught humans how to build better shields and make the healing medicine. When Earth's magnetic field slowly came back, they helped make it stronger than before. They saved 90% of all human life on the planet. When the crisis was over, Earth's leaders asked what they wanted as payment. Elder Velton just smiled his gentle smile. "We want nothing but your friendship," he said. "In this big galaxy, good people are rare. We are happy to know you." Some Velinari stayed on Earth to be ambassadors and teachers. Others visited often. They shared some of their knowledge about medicine and clean energy. They invited humans to visit their world, their doll, which was beautiful beyond imagination. Kiwan's thoughts were broken by a soft knock on her door. She looked up to see Minho, head of the Xenological Studies Department. His face was worried. "Ambassador," he said, "we just got an urgent message from Theradol. You need to see this." He put a small device on her desk. A hologram appeared showing Elder Velton, but he looked much older now. His blue skin seemed faded, and his kind eyes were full of sadness. "My dear human friends," the recorded message said, "I must tell you terrible news. Our star is dying. Much faster than our scientists predicted. The changes started 3 months ago. Their doll will become too hot to live on in less than 5 Earth years. We are trying to find new worlds for our people, but—" His voice broke. "Most of our race will not survive. We wanted to tell you because you have been such good friends. Please do not feel sad for us. We have lived long, good lives. The message ended. Jiwan stared at the empty space where the hologram had been. Minho looked at the floor. How many Velinari are there? She asked quietly. About 2 billion on Theradal, Minho said. Maybe 50 million on other worlds. And how many can be evacuated to other planets? The Galactic Council is offering to take maybe 10 million as refugees. Other worlds might take a few million more. But most galactic species don't like taking in large numbers of outsiders. Jiwan felt anger rising in her chest. The Velinari had saved billions of humans without asking for anything. Now, when they needed help, the galaxy would only save a tiny fraction of them? She stood up and walked to her communication center. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. Get me President Soman on Earth, she said. Emergency priority. The screen flickered and President Soman's face appeared. She was a strong woman in her 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Jiwan, what's wrong? She asked. The Velinari need us, Jiwan said simply. She played Elder Velton's message. President Soman watched without speaking. When it ended, she was quiet for a long moment. How long do we have? She finally asked. Less than 5 years. And how many can the galaxy save? Maybe 20 million at most. President Soman's face got hard as stone. Not acceptable. Call an emergency meeting of the Human Assembly. I'm calling every colony leader, every ship captain, every scientist we have. If the Velinari saved us when we were helpless, then by God, we'll save them. Ma'am, with respect, the numbers are impossible. 2 billion people. I don't care about impossible, President Soman said, her voice like steel. They didn't care about impossible when they saved us. We'll find a way. The connection ended. Jiwan looked at Minho, who seemed shocked. She can't be serious, he whispered. Moving 2 billion people? The cost alone would bankrupt our entire civilization. But Jiwan smiled for the first time that day. She remembered the stories her grandmother told about the storm years. How humans had worked together like never before. How they had shared everything they had with strangers. How they had refused to give up even when death seemed certain. You don't understand us yet, she told Minho. Humans never forget a friend. And we never forget a debt. Dr. Yuna stood before the largest gathering in human history. Every screen on every human world showed her face as she prepared to speak. Behind her, a massive hologram displayed what looked like madness, the plan to save the Velinari. She was small for a human, barely reaching most people's shoulders, but her voice carried the weight of entire worlds. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her dark eyes burned with determination that had kept her awake for weeks. My fellow humans, she began, and our friends across the galaxy who are listening. 3 weeks ago we learned that our greatest allies face extinction. Today I present our answer. The hologram behind her changed to show 2 planets. One was Theradal, the beautiful blue and green world where the Velinari lived. The other was a brown and orange planet orbiting a different star. This is Kepler 442b, Dr. Yuna said, pointing to the second world. It has no intelligent life, but it could support the Velinari perfectly. It has the right size, the right distance from its sun, the right atmosphere. There is only one problem. It is 47 light-years away from the Velinari home system. She paused, looking directly into the cameras that broadcast to trillions of beings across the galaxy. So we will move it. The reaction was immediate. In the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime, alien delegates jumped from their seats. The hegemony representative, a tall creature with gray skin and cold yellow eyes, made a sound like laughing and choking at the same time. Impossible, shouted Krell, the hegemony's lead diplomat. These humans have lost their minds. You cannot move a planet. The energy needed would power 1,000 star systems for 1,000,000 years. Other delegates nodded in agreement. The idea was insane. No species in galactic history had ever moved a planet. It was like trying to pick up a mountain with your bare hands, but Dr. Yuna continued calmly. The plan uses quantum-linked gravity wells. We will build massive stations around Kepler 442b. These stations will create artificial gravity fields that can gently pull the planet from its orbit. Once free, we will use the same gravity fields to guide it through space to the Velinary system. She showed technical drawings that made even advanced alien scientists scratch their heads in confusion. The math was incredibly complex, but it seemed to work. The journey will take 3 years, she said. We will need every human ship, every human resource, and the help of any species willing to join us, but it can be done. On their Adal, Elder. Velton watched with tears running down his face. Around him, other Velinary leaders sat in stunned silence. They had expected humans to offer refugee status to some of their people. Instead, humans wanted to move an entire world just for them. This is not possible, whispered Velinary Science Minister Thalana. The technical challenges alone. The humans saved themselves during the Great Storm with technology they invented in months, Elder Velton said softly. They think differently than we do. Where we see problems, they see puzzles to solve. Back on New Geneva Station, the human command center buzzed with activity. President Soman had arrived with her entire cabinet. Admiral Taeyang, a stern man with graying hair and scars from old battles, studied fleet deployment charts. The numbers don't work, he said bluntly. We need 50,000 ships minimum. We only have 30,000 in the entire human fleet. Then we build more, said Commander Hown, a young woman whose quick thinking had won several important battles. Every shipyard in human space is already starting construction. We'll have civilian ships, cargo ships, even pleasure craft equipped with gravity generators. And where do we get the resources? Admiral Taeyang asked. The materials alone will. Empty every mine we have. President Soman stepped forward. I've already signed the orders. Every colony is contributing everything they can spare. Mars is giving up half its iron production. The asteroid miners are working double shifts. The moon bases are converting their entire manufacturing capacity to gravity generator production. Ma'am, Admiral Taeyang said carefully, this will bankrupt us. Our entire civilization will be poor for generations. President Summon's eyes flashed. Admiral, 200 years ago, the Velinary gave us everything they had to save people they had never met. They didn't ask what it would cost them. They just did what was right. Engineer Kyung raised his hand. He was a quiet man who usually let others do the talking, but he had been working on the gravity anchor designs day and night. I think I can help with the resource problem, he said. The Velinary shared their shield technology with us after the storm. I've been studying it for decades. Their quantum field principles are exactly what we need for the gravity wells. We can adapt their old designs to make our generators more efficient, Dr. Yuna smiled. Perfect. The technology that saved us will help us save them. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other species watched with amazement and disbelief. In the Crystal Collective's hive mind network, billions of crystal beings shared confused thoughts. Why would the humans spend so much to save others? On the warrior world of Kovan, battle-scarred veterans argued in their great halls. Some called the humans weak for caring so much about aliens. Others called them the strongest warriors they had ever seen, fighting death itself to save their friends. The peaceful Thurnley held special meditation sessions, trying to understand the depth of human emotion. Their leader, a wise being whose thoughts moved like flowing water, spoke to his people. We have watched many species rise and fall, he said. Most think only of themselves. But these humans, they love their friends more than they love their own comfort. This is either the greatest wisdom or the greatest foolishness we have ever seen. Back in human space, the work began immediately. On Earth, factories that once made cars and computers started making gravity generators. Schools taught children about orbital mechanics so they could help with calculations. Old people who remembered the storm years told stories to inspire the workers. Do-Yun, a Velinary who had lived among humans for 50 years, watched the preparations with wonder. He had come to Earth as a young diplomat and had seen humans at their best and worst. But this was beyond anything he had imagined. He found Dr. Yuna in her laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing planet movement calculations. She had not slept in days, but her eyes still burned with determination. "Dr. Yuna," he said in his soft, musical voice, "my people are overwhelmed by what you are doing. But I must ask, why? Why risk everything for us?" She looked up at him with tired eyes. "Do you remember what Elder Velton said when he first came to Earth? He said that in this big galaxy, good people are rare, and he was happy to know us." Do-yan nodded. Double quo. "Well," Dr. Yuna continued, "in this big galaxy, true friends are even rarer, and we are happy to know you." On the outer edge of human space, the first gravity anchor stations were being built. They were massive structures, each one the size of a small moon. Thousands of human workers and hundreds of willing alien volunteers worked together, welding and building under the light of distant stars. The hegemony sent spy ships to watch, expecting the human effort to fail quickly. When War Leader Drex saw the massive construction projects, he became worried. "These humans are serious," he told his commanders. "If they succeed in moving a planet, it will change everything. Other species will expect us to make similar sacrifices. This cannot be allowed. What do you suggest?" asked his second-in-command. War Leader Drex's eyes became cold as space itself. "We stopped them for the good of galactic order." But the humans continued their work, unaware of the storm gathering against them. In shipyards around Jupiter, new vessels took shape. On Mars, miners worked until their hands bled to dig up the metals needed for the great project. On distant colony worlds, farmers gave up their harvests to feed the workers building humanity's greatest dream. Elder Velton stood in his garden on Theridal, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, beings he had met as strangers were, moving heaven and earth to save his people. He had lived for over 300 years and had seen much, but he had never seen anything like this. His aide approached nervously. "Elder, the human ambassador Jiwan is requesting to speak with you." "Of course," Elder Velton said. Jiwan's face appeared in a hologram, smiling despite the enormous task ahead. "Elder Velton," she said, "I want to tell you that the first gravity anchor station will be completed in 6 months. We're ahead of schedule." "My dear Jiwan," the old Velinari said, "you know this is impossible, don't you?" Jiwan's smile grew wider. "Elder, you taught us something important 200 years ago. You taught us that impossible just means nobody has tried hard enough yet." Admiral Taiyang floated in the command center of the battleship Harmony, staring at the largest fleet in human history. Through the massive viewing window, he could see ships stretching to the horizon of space, 50,000 vessels of every size and shape, all pointed toward the same impossible goal. There were military ships with their gray hulls and weapon ports sealed shut. There were cargo haulers, their massive holds now filled with gravity generators instead of trade goods. There were even luxury passenger ships, their fancy decorations covered by the ugly but necessary gravity anchor equipment. "Admiral," said Captain Gina from her position at the communications station, "all ships report ready. The gravity anchors are charged and locked onto Kepler 442b. Admiral Taiyang nodded. He was a practical man who had spent his life fighting pirates and protecting trade routes. Moving planets was not something they taught at the military academy. But here he was, commanding the strangest mission in galactic history. "Begin the operation," he ordered, around the brown and orange planet below. 50,000 ships fired their gravity generators at the same moment. Invisible beams of twisted space-time reached out like ghostly hands, gently grabbing the world that would become the new home for the Velinari people. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Kepler 442b continued spinning peacefully in its orbit, unaware that tiny creatures from across the galaxy were trying to steal it from its sun. Then the planet shivered. It was barely noticeable at first, just a small change in the way it moved through space. But the computers showed the truth. Kepler 442b was slowing down in its orbit like a ball rolling up a hill. "It's working!" shouted Engineer Kyung from his monitoring station. "Orbital velocity is decreasing exactly as predicted." But their celebration was cut short by alarms. Captain Gina's face went pale as she read her instruments. Admiral, we have incoming ships. Hegemony War Fleet, 200 vessels approaching fast. Admiral Taiyang cursed under his breath. He had hoped they would have more time before the Hegemony tried to stop them. War Leader Drex commanded the Hegemony fleet from his flagship, a massive black ship covered in weapons. To him, the human fleet looked like insects buzzing around something they should not touch. He opened a communication channel to all human ships. "This is War Leader Drex of the Hegemony 4th Fleet," his cold voice echoed across space. "You are engaged in an illegal operation that threatens galactic stability. Cease your activities immediately and surrender your ships, or we will destroy you." Admiral Taiyang looked at his officers. Commander Hound stepped forward, her young face set with determination. "Admiral, they can't be serious. This is a rescue operation, not an invasion." "They're serious," Admiral Taiyang said grimly. "To them, we're dangerous because we're willing to bankrupt ourselves to save others. That kind of thinking scares species that only care about profit and power." He opened his own communication channel. "War Leader Drex, this is Admiral Taiyang of the Human Alliance Fleet. We are conducting a peaceful rescue operation to save the Velinary people from extinction. We will not stop." "Then you will die," Drex replied simply. The Hegemony ships opened fire. Green energy beams cut through space, striking human vessels that were too busy maintaining the gravity anchors to fight back properly. 3 cargo ships exploded in brilliant flashes, their crews dying for the dream of moving a world. "All ships," Admiral Taiyang ordered, "maintain the gravity anchors at all costs. Do not break formation." Commander Hound took control of the military. Vessels that could still fight. She was young but brilliant, and she had studied every battle in human history. As Hegemony ships swooped down on the human fleet, she made a decision that no military school had ever taught. "Use the planet's gravity as a weapon," she ordered her captains. "Slingshot maneuvers around Kepler 442b, let their own momentum work against them." Human fighters dove toward the planet, using its gravity well to gain speed and change direction in ways that confused the Hegemony pilots. The alien ships, designed for fighting in empty space, struggled to adapt to combat around. A massive world, but the humans were still badly outnumbered. More ships died every minute, their gravity generators going dark as their crews made the ultimate sacrifice. Then something unexpected happened, new. Ships appeared at the edge of the system, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They came from every direction. Ships of designs that Admiral Taiyang had never seen before. Captain Gina stared at her sensors in amazement. "Admiral, we have incoming friendlies. Thernally meditation ships, Corvum battle cruisers, Crystal Collective hive vessels. I'm reading signatures from at least 20 different species." The first to arrive were the Thernally, their ships shaped like flowing water made solid. Their leader's voice was calm and musical as it filled the communication channels. "Human friends," the Thernally commander said, "we have watched your actions with great interest. We believe what you do is right. We offer our assistance." Right behind them came the Corvan warriors. Their ships were ugly and brutal looking, covered in spikes and armor plates. But their weapons were powerful, and they had come to fight alongside humans. "Ha!" roared Corvan Battle Chief Garon. "Finally, warriors who fight for honor instead of profit. We stand with the humans." Even the mysterious Deep Void Collective sent ships, strange vessels that seemed to bend light around them. No one knew much about the Deep Void beings, but apparently they approved of moving planets to save dying races. War Leader Drex found himself facing not just 50,000 human ships, but thousands more vessels from across the galaxy. Species that normally ignored each other were working together, all inspired by humanity's impossible dream. "This is insane," he shouted to his officers. "Why are they all helping the humans?" His science officer, a younger Hegemony member who had studied other cultures, spoke quietly. "Sir, I think it's because the humans are doing something no one has ever done before. They're spending everything they have to save strangers. Other species find this ... inspiring." War Leader Drex snarled. Inspiration doesn't win wars. Oh? Ships, concentrate fire on the human command vessels. The battle became fierce. Green hegemony energy beams crossed with blue thermally peace rays and red Corvin war lasers. Human fighters danced between explosions while alien allies covered them with protective fire, but the most important battle was happening on a different level. Down on Kepler 442b's surface, the gravity anchors were slowly winning their war against physics itself. The planet was pulling away from its sun, inch by impossible inch. Engineer Kyung monitored the readings with hands that shook from exhaustion and fear. "We're at the critical point," he reported over the communication system. "If we can maintain the gravity wells for just 10 more minutes, the planet will break free of its star's gravity." 10 minutes, Admiral Taiyang repeated. Around him, the battle raged as human and alien ships fought desperately to protect the gravity anchor vessels. Commander Heehan's voice crackled over the radio from her fighter. "Admiral, I'm seeing massive stress fractures in the planet's crust. The gravity wells are pulling too hard." "If we reduce power, we'll lose our chance," Engineer Kyung replied. "The planet will fall back into orbit around its sun. And if we, don't reduce power, we'll tear the world apart," Commander Hao shot back. Admiral Taiyang faced an impossible choice. Risk destroying the very planet they were trying to save, or lose their only chance to move it. Then Dr. Yuna's voice came over the communications from her research ship. "I have an idea. What if we don't reduce the power, but spread it out? Instead of pulling from 50,000 points, we pull from 100,000 points." "How?" Admiral Taiyang asked. "Every ship with any kind of gravity generator, even the smallest ones used for artificial gravity inside the ships. If every vessel in both our fleet and our allies' fleets contributes their gravity, we can reduce the stress on any single point." It was risky. The alien ships had different technology, different power systems. Coordinating all of them would be almost impossible. "Attention all vessels," Admiral Taiyang broadcast to every ship in the system, human and alien alike. "We need every gravity generator you have, no matter how small. Link them to our network and help us save a world." Species that had never worked together before suddenly found themselves sharing their most advanced technology. Thermally meditation ships linked their consciousness-based gravity systems with Corvin war machines. Crystal Collective Hive vessels synchronized their group mind controls with human computers. The planet below them began to glow as hundreds of thousands of gravity beams touched its surface. But this time the force was gentle, like countless hands carefully lifting a sleeping child. War Leader Drex watched in horror as his carefully ordered galaxy fell apart around him. Species were cooperating in ways that had never happened before. The rigid hierarchy of the hegemony, where strong species ruled weak ones, was being challenged by something he did not understand, the idea that different peoples could work as equals. "Sir," his communications officer reported nervously, "several of our own ships are asking permission to help the humans." War Leader Drex's yellow eyes blazed with fury. "Any hegemony vessel that aids this madness will be destroyed." But it was too late. The spirit of cooperation had spread too far. Even some hegemony crew members began. Navigator Sunho had never imagined he would spend 3 years guiding a planet through space. He sat in the navigation center of the Pathfinder, surrounded by star charts and gravity calculations that covered every wall. Through the window he could see Kepler 442b, now called Theresham by the Valneri, spinning slowly as it traveled between the stars. The journey had been going for 18 months already. 18 months of keeping thousands of ships in perfect formation around a wandering world. 18 months of making sure the gravity anchors stayed balanced so the planet would not tear itself apart. "Current position report," he called out to his team. Technician Woojin looked up from his instruments. He was young and had joined the mission straight from engineering school. His job was to monitor the gravity anchors, making sure they never failed. "We're on course, sir," Woojin reported. "Distance traveled, 23 light years. Time to destination, 14 months, 3 days, 7 hours. Sunho nodded. The numbers were good, but he worried about the crew. 3 years was a long time to spend watching over a planet. Some people were starting to get restless. Others were getting tired. A few were beginning to wonder if the mission was worth the cost. "Any problems with the anchor stations?" he asked. Woodgen's face grew serious. "Station 7342 is showing stress fractures. The engineers think it needs to be replaced soon." "How soon?" "Maybe 2 weeks before it fails completely," Sunho sighed. This was the constant challenge of the journey. The gravity anchor stations were huge machines that created the invisible hands holding the planet, but they were not meant to work for years at a time. Parts broke down. Power systems overheated. Computer circuits burned out. When a station failed, it had to be replaced quickly or the planet would start to wobble out of control. They had already replaced over 300 stations during the journey. Each replacement required precise timing and incredible skill from the engineering crews. "Send a repair team to station 7342, Sunho ordered, "and start building a replacement just in case." On the other side of the fleet, Dr. Minji was studying something much more interesting than broken machines. She was watching how life on Narration was adapting to its strange journey through space. From her research ship, she used powerful sensors to scan the planet's surface. What she found amazed her. The plants and animals were changing in ways no one had expected. "Look at this," she said to her assistant, showing him pictures from the planet's forests. "The trees are growing differently. Their leaves are bigger and they're storing more energy. It's like they know they're traveling to a new sun." Her assistant, a young biologist named Taeyun, studied the data with wonder. "The animals are changing, too. The bird-like creatures are flying in different patterns. And the sea life is moving to deeper waters. It's like the whole planet is getting ready for its new home," Dr. Minji said. "Life is amazing. It finds a way to survive even when you move its entire world." Meanwhile, thousands of Velinari lived aboard the human ships, working alongside their rescuers. They had insisted on helping with the mission, even though it was being done to save them. Captain Yunji commanded one of the escort vessels that carried Velinari families. She had grown to love the gentle aliens during the long journey. Their children played with human children in the ship's recreation areas. Their scientists worked with human engineers to solve problems. Their artists created beautiful paintings, showing Earth and their doll together in the stars. One of her closest friends was Velinari sage Thelara, an old female who had lived for over 200 years. Thelara was wise and kind, and she had a way of solving problems that no one else could figure out. "Captain Yunji," Thelara said one day as they watched Narration through the observation deck windows, "I have been thinking about something that troubles me." "What's that, my friend?" "Your people are spending everything to save mine. Your economy is broken. Your resources are gone. Your ships and crews are tired. What happens to humanity after this mission ends?" Captain Yunji smiled. "We'll rebuild. We always do, and we'll be proud that we did the right thing. But you could have spent these resources on yourselves. You could have built new colonies, new technologies, new wonders." "Sage Thelara," Captain Yunji said gently, "what good are wonders if you have no friends to share them with? What good are colonies if you let your allies die? Money and resources can be replaced. Friends like you cannot." The old Velinari's eyes filled with tears. In all her long life, she had never met people like the humans. Not everyone in the galaxy was happy about the mission, though. The hegemony had not given up on stopping the humans. They could not attack the massive fleet directly anymore, but they found other ways to cause trouble. They spread rumors that the mission would fail and kill everyone involved. They offered bribes to human colonies, trying to convince them to stop sending resources. They even sent spy ships to follow the fleet. Looking for weaknesses, war leader Drex had been replaced after his defeat at Kepler 442b, but the new hegemony leader was just as determined to stop the humans. She was called Coldmine Vex, and she was known for her ruthless intelligence. "The humans must fail," she told her officers. If they succeed in moving a planet, other species will expect similar sacrifices from us. We cannot allow that. How do we stop them? Asked her second-in-command. They are protected by allies from dozens of species. Cold Mind Vex smiled, but it was not a nice smile. We don't attack them directly. We attack their supply lines. Cut off their resources. Make the mission so expensive that even humans will give up. She sent fast ships to raid human supply convoys. She bribed pirates to attack human colonies. She used every dirty trick she could think of to make the mission fail, but she underestimated human determination. When supply ships were attacked, civilian volunteers stepped forward to replace them. When colonies were threatened, other colonies sent help. When resources ran low, humans simply worked harder and asked for less. Halfway through the journey, disaster almost struck. A massive space storm, a region where reality itself became twisted, appeared directly in their path. The storm stretched for light years in every direction. There was no way around it. Navigator Sunho stared at the readings in horror. If we go through that storm, the gravity anchors will fail. The planet will be torn apart. Engineer Kyung studied the data from his position on one of the anchor stations. What if we strengthen the gravity fields? Double or triple the power? That would burn out half our generators, Technician Woojin reported. We'd lose control of the planet anyway. They seem trapped. After 18 months of successful travel, they might lose everything to a cosmic storm that no one had predicted. Then Lieutenant Hanbin, a young officer on one of the military escort ships, volunteered for a desperate mission. Let me take a small team into the storm, he said. We'll set up temporary anchor stations inside the storm itself. They won't last long, but they might provide enough extra stability to get the planet through safely. It's suicide, Admiral, Taeyang told him bluntly. Those ships won't survive in the storm for more than a few hours. Then we make those hours count, Lieutenant Hanbin replied, against all military protocol. Admiral Taeyang approved the mission. Lieutenant Hanbin took 50 volunteers in small, fast ships equipped with portable gravity generators. They flew into the reality storm like heroes from ancient legends. Knowing they would not come back for 6 terrible hours, Lieutenant Hanbin's team fought the storm from inside, using their ship's gravity generators to create stable pockets where the main fleet could pass. One by one, the volunteer ships were destroyed by the twisted space around them. Lieutenant Hanbin's ship was the last to fail. His final transmission came through broken and faint. Path is clear. Planet is safe. Tell my family. I'm proud to be human. Then his ship was gone, swallowed by the storm, but his sacrifice worked. Narration passed through the storm safely, guided by the temporary anchors that Lieutenant Hanbin's team had died to create. The planet emerged on the other side with only minor damage, a few new craters and some atmospheric disturbance that would heal in time. The fleet held a ceremony for Lieutenant Hanbin and his 50 volunteers. Humans and aliens alike gathered to honor the young people who had given their lives to save a world. Sage Thelara spoke for the Velinari. In our language there is a word, Thelanathi. It means someone who gives their life so others may live. We thought it was just a word from old stories. But Lieutenant Hanbin and his team have shown us that heroes are real. The rest of the journey was quieter but no less challenging. Every day brought new problems to solve, new systems to repair, new crises to overcome. But the combined fleet of humans and their allies worked together like parts of a great machine, each species contributing their unique skills. The Thernally used their meditation techniques to help stressed crew members stay calm. The Corvan warriors took over the most dangerous repair jobs. Their tough bot is able to survive in conditions that would kill others. The Crystal Collective processed vast amounts of navigational data with their hive mind intelligence. Even some former enemies began to help. A few hegemony ships quietly left their fleet and joined the mission, their crews no longer able to fight against such a noble cause. As they entered the final months, Chief Astronomer Yamin could not believe what his instruments were showing him. After 3 years of impossible travel, Narration was finally approaching the Velinary home system. The planet looked perfect, its blue oceans and green continents glowing in the light of the dying star. Orbital position is optimal, he reported to the command center. Narration is exactly where it needs to be for the Velinary to survive. Around him, the massive fleet began the most delicate part of their mission, placing the planet in its new orbit. Thousands of ships worked together like dancers in a cosmic ballet, their gravity anchors gently guiding the world to its new home. On the surface of old Theradal, billions of Velinary watched through telescopes and viewing screens. Their beautiful blue and green world was dying as their star grew hotter and more violent each day. But now, hanging in the sky like a new moon, was their salvation. Elder Velton stood in the great observatory with tears streaming down his face. He was very old now, almost 350 years, and he had thought he would die watching his species become extinct. Instead, he was watching the greatest rescue in galactic history. "It's really happening," he whispered to his aide. "The humans actually moved a planet to save us." His aide, a younger Velinary named Kethelin, was too amazed to speak. Like all his generation, he had grown up hearing stories about the crazy humans who promised to move worlds. Now he was seeing it with his own eyes, but the mission was not over yet. Dr. Yuna had one final challenge to overcome. The dying star, their doll, was becoming unstable, shooting out massive flares of deadly radiation. Even with Narration in place, these flares could still destroy both the new world and the old one. From her command ship, Dr. Yuna studied the star's behavior with growing concern. "The star is worse than we thought," she told her team. "It's going to explode as a nova in less than a year. When it does, it will sterilize both planets." Engineer Kyung looked at the data with tired eyes. The 3-year journey had aged all of them, but none more than the people who had carried the technical burden of the mission. "What can we do?" he asked. "We can't move the star, and we can't stop it from exploding." "No," Dr. Yuna said slowly, "but we can redirect the explosion." She showed them her plan on the holographic display. By using Narration's new position, they could create a gravitational shield that would deflect the star's death blast away from both planets. The gravity wells that move the planet can be reconfigured into a giant mirror, she explained. When the star explodes, the gravity mirror will bend the radiation and energy away from the inhabited worlds. It was brilliant and terrifying at the same time. They would be using a planet as a shield against the death of a star. Admiral Taiyang studied the plan from his flagship. He had aged greatly during the mission, his hair now completely gray and his face marked by the stress of commanding the largest fleet in galactic history. "How long do we have to set this up?" he asked. 6 months, Dr. Yuna replied. "Maybe less if the star becomes more unstable. 6 months to reconfigure thousands of gravity generators, coordinate the work of dozens of alien species, and prepare for something that had never been attempted before." It seemed impossible, but then again, everything they had done seemed impossible. The work began immediately. Ships that had spent 3 years holding a planet together now had to become part of a giant gravity lens. Human engineers worked alongside Velinary scientists, Thernally meditation masters, and Corvan warriors to build something that had never existed before. On their Adal, the Velinary began the greatest evacuation in their history. Billions of people left their dying world to move to the new planet that humans had brought them. Transport ships flew back and forth between the worlds, carrying families, belongings, and the accumulated knowledge of an entire civilization. Ambassador Seong coordinated the evacuation from her diplomatic ship. She was a calm, efficient woman who had spent her career solving impossible problems. But managing the movement of 2 billion people between planets was the greatest challenge she had ever faced. "Current evacuation status?" she asked her staff. 800 million Velinary have been successfully moved to Narration, reported her aide. 1.2 billion still on the old world. And how much time do we have? The star could explode any day now. Dr. Yuna thinks we have maybe 3 months left. 3 months to move over 1 billion people and complete the gravity shield. The numbers seemed impossible, but humans had gotten used to impossible things. Then, unexpectedly, help came from the least likely source, Cold Mind Vex. The hegemony leader who had spent years trying to stop the mission arrived in the system. With a fleet of hegemony ships, Admiral Taiyang prepared for another battle, but Vex's message surprised everyone. "Human Admiral," she said, "I request permission to assist in the evacuation." "Why?" Admiral Taiyang asked bluntly. "You've been trying to stop us for 3 years." Cold Mind Vex was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Softer, more uncertain. "Because you have changed everything," she said. "The old ways, where strong species rule weak ones, where everyone only cares about themselves. You have shown the galaxy something different. My own people are questioning our leadership. They want to be part of something noble, like what you are doing." She paused again. "I'd have spent my life believing that mercy is weakness, but you have proven that mercy can move planets. I want to be part of that." Admiral Taiyang looked at his officers. Commander Hao nodded slowly. "Even former enemies deserved a chance at redemption." "Welcome to the mission, Cold Mind Vex," Admiral Taiyang said. "We can use all the help we can get." The hegemony ships joined the evacuation effort, their fast vessels moving thousands of Velinary families each trip. Former enemies worked side by side with humans and their allies, all united by the goal of saving lives. As the evacuation continued, the dying star grew more violent. Solar flares reached out like angry hands, bathing both planets in dangerous radiation. The Velinary who remained on their Adal had to stay in underground shelters most of the time, but slowly, steadily the evacuation proceeded. Families reunited on Narration. Children who had been born on the old world took their first steps on the new one. Artists and musicians began creating works that celebrated both their lost home and their new beginning. With just weeks to spare, the last Velinary transport lifted off from Theradal. Elder Velton was among the final group to leave, refusing to abandon his world until every last person was safe. As his ship rose into space, he looked back at the planet where his people had lived for thousands of years. The continents were glowing red from the heat of the dying star. The oceans were beginning to boil. Soon, this beautiful world would be nothing but a burned rock, but his people lived. All of them lived, because humans had cared enough to move heaven and earth to save them. "Goodbye, old home," he whispered. "Thank you for all the years you gave us." Dr. Yuna watched the final transport dock with Narration and felt a moment of satisfaction. The evacuation was complete. Now came the most dangerous part of the entire mission. "All ships, prepare for gravity mirror activation," she broadcast to the fleet. "The star is showing critical instability. Nova event expected within 72 hours. Around both planets, thousands of ships took their positions. The gravity generators that had moved a planet across the galaxy now formed a vast lens in space, ready to redirect the power of an exploding star on Narration, the Velinary. People gathered in great viewing halls to watch the end of their old world and the birth of their new life. Children who had never seen their ancestral home pressed against windows to witness this moment of history. The star began to die with a beauty that was terrible to watch. Its outer layers peeled away in brilliant streams of plasma. Its core collapsed, and then exploded outward in a blast that lit up half the galaxy. The shockwave hit the gravity mirror at exactly the moment Dr. Yuna had calculated. For a few terrifying seconds, it seemed like the mirror might fail. The gravitational lens bent and twisted under forces that could destroy solar systems, but it held the star's death. Blasts split like water hitting a rock, flowing around both planets in streams of harmless light. What should have been the destruction of two worlds became the most spectacular light show in galactic history. On Narration, the Velinary people cheered and cried as they watched their new sky fill with dancing colors. The aurora created by the redirected stellar explosion would shine in their atmosphere for years to come, a permanent reminder of the humans who saved them. Elder Velton stood with Ambassador Jiwan on a hill overlooking New Velinara, the first city built on the new world. The old Velinary leader had lived to see his people saved, but he was very tired now. "My dear friend," he said to Jiwan, "your people have given mine the greatest gift possible, a future. How can we ever repay such kindness?" Jiwan smiled and looked up at the dancing lights in the sky. "You already did, Elder. 200 years ago, you saved us when we were helpless. You asked for nothing but friendship. Well, this is what human friendship looks like." Elder Velton nodded slowly. "I understand now. This is not about debt or payment. This is about love." "Yes," Jiwan said simply. "This is about love." The old Velinary leader reached into his robes and pulled out a small crystal device.